When it comes to design, I always find sketching to be one of the most important parts of the design process. As we undertake the design process, ideas can often occur, and the best way to capture them is to sketch them down. Sketching encourages us to think visually, get ideas out of our head and bring them to life quickly. Sketching is where we can make mistakes, stumble upon ideas and develop our thoughts. Really, sketching is all about discovery, which is an important part of the design process. To quote Milton Glaser, sketching is the compass that guides designers through the labyrinth of creativity, revealing the path from inspiration to realization. When I undertake sketching, it's very common for me to sketch an idea, and then that idea will inspire other ideas, and so on and so forth, until I have an idea I think works. I find sketching to be sort of an organic, highly creative, spontaneous process, and all my best work and ideas have come from sketching. Now, one of the cool things about sketching is that there is no pressure here. You don't have to be good at it, and anybody can do it. It's not about perfection here, it's about ideas. And when it comes to poster design, a lot of the time I will always start on paper. Jumping straight onto the computer can be uninspiring, so I like to explore my ideas on paper first, as I always find this encourages me to think outside the box and test and generate my ideas. I find sketching and exploring my ideas on paper first can lead to ideas I may not have had initially. So in this video, I'm going to demonstrate and share how I sketch my ideas for poster design and explain why this is a crucial technique you may find useful. So let's get into it. So when it comes to poster design, starting with a blank canvas can be bewildering, and it can sometimes be difficult to know where to start, so sketching first can make it easier to generate ideas that we can then take onto the computer later. My policy, if something works as a sketch, then with a bit of work, it will probably work as a more polished design. At the very least, it's something to start with. When sketching for poster design, there are a few approaches I can take. Now, the first approach is one I have been using for years, and I'd say is probably the most common amongst designers. The first approach I would recommend is to sketch on blank paper or grid paper. Now for this, I will typically draw out several outlines on a page, and roughly I may draw in some center lines and perhaps some grid lines, and then start to sketch out my designs inside. If I want to explore more ideas, I'll repeat the process of drawing outlines, grids, and sketching out my ideas. Now, as good as it is to sketch on blank sketch pads and grid paper, I always find drawing out multiple frames and repeating the process can be tedious and time consuming, especially when I just want to get my ideas out there. So as of now, I have a solution that makes this process so much easier. The next approach I would recommend is a new technique I have started using in my design process, which I find to be a big improvement over the first. So to help me with my poster design, I have now started using my Poster Grid Sketchbook. This is a sketchbook I have carefully created from scratch that contains tons of grid samples I have prepared earlier that I can use to base my design on. Instead of purchasing blank or generic grid sketchbooks where I have to draw out my outlines and grids multiple times, here I have prepared specific grids on individual sheets, which makes it easier for me to print out, focus, sketch and plan my poster design quickly and effortlessly. Here I can see the grid lines very clearly, so it makes planning and sketching a breeze. In a previous video, I showcased my Poster Grid Sketchbook, which I go into detail about how it can be used and how to acquire it. If you want to learn more about the Poster Grid Sketchbook, you can see a link in the description. Included in the sketchbook are 7 crucial poster grid types you can use. Included is a variety of column grids, modular grids, baseline grids, hierarchical grids, digital grids, axial grids, and radial grids. So lots of variety and frameworks to inspire and base the poster design on whatever approach I want to take. And using the Poster Grid Sketchbook is really easy. With my sketchbook PDF open, I simply navigate and print off a grid I think would be appropriate for my design. When designing for posters, I like to print off a bunch of pages of a variety of grids, and I'll use these to sketch on to develop my ideas. Also, a quick tip here. If I want to print the same grid multiple times on a single A4 or A3 piece of paper, in Acrobat Reader, I'll press Command P to print. I'll choose a page to print, and in the pages options, I'll duplicate the page number however many times I want to print the grid. Let's say, for example, page 10 6 times. I'll click multiple and set how I want the page to be composed, in this case 3 by 2. And just like that, I can print off one sheet with 6 grids, where I can sketch multiple ideas on a single page and not waste too much paper. I find using these poster grid pages can really help me envision what my layout could be like. I can simply print out the pages I need, and with all the lines clear, I can sketch on top. So how do I sketch for poster design? Well, a process I like to take is to first reflect on the subject of my poster, its contents, and the anatomy of the poster, and keep in mind the key elements that make up a poster and how I may want to go about managing visual elements and how I'd like to lay them out. To make this easy, I use my Anatomy of Poster Design checklist. This is a checklist I have previously put together which outlines all the key components of poster design I can be aware of. In a previous video, I covered the anatomy of poster design in detail and unpacked all the key criteria that makes up the anatomy of poster design. If you want to learn more about the anatomy of poster design and get your hands on a free anatomy of poster design checklist, check the link in the description. So once I'm aware of the contents and my criteria, I can then begin to sketch out my poster design, keeping in mind all the key criteria. Typically, when sketching, I'll just sketch pretty rough on my grids to see a bunch of ideas and permutations of my ideas. Personally, I like to use fine line markers as I like the ink, and if I make any mistakes, I can just use Tipp-Ex to remove any mistakes. Here, I'll just draw with a series of very simple lines to map out the form of my poster and how I may want certain elements like image, type, shapes, form, and space to work. Once I have lots of ideas down and I feel satisfied I have covered a lot of ground, I will then start to shortlist some of my ideas and see which ideas I think could work as more polished designs. Now, if I'm only sketching for myself, I'll just generate a bunch of rough sketches like you see here. That makes sense to me. They may be a bit rough here, but that's okay because these are just for me. However, sometimes when I'm working on a project, I may have to show work colleagues or even a client in the early stages. If this is the case, then I will generate more refined sketches that outline an idea more clearly. These are called Scamps and are more refined, clear drawings which clearly and comprehensively outline the approach and intention for a design. Where my initial sketches were rough, these are a lot more refined, and from these, it should be very clear what my intention is and how I want to manage the elements on the page. These may not be final designs, but they do a good job of communicating a concept for a design, which can be good to discuss with colleagues or clients in the initial stages. This can save a lot of time overcommitting to a design on the computer where discussions and decisions can be made before investing time to artwork the final piece on the computer. Normally, I'll compose these either on a separate page or include 2 on a sheet to maintain clarity. Once I feel I have some good ideas down and I'm excited about some of my design ideas, I'll then think about jumping onto the computer to start crafting my design and bring my poster design to life. So that's how I sketch for my poster design and generate ideas for my poster layout and some of the techniques I would recommend incorporating into your design process. Using my poster design sketchbook is a handy resource that not only speeds up my workflow, but helps with my design process and inspire me to think outside of the box. Whatever my idea and intention for my design, this sketchbook has me covered. This has now become a crucial part of my design process, and I use these to generate my poster design ideas. If, like me, you're passionate about poster design and want to improve on your layout and get more inspiration and ideas, I would recommend sketching and also using the Poster Grid Sketchbook. I find it really useful and I hope you can find it useful too. If you want to learn more about the Poster Grid Sketchbook, you can find a link in the description to the video where you can learn more and get access. And also, if you want to learn more about the anatomy of poster design and get hold of the free PDF checklist, which can also help with your design process, the link is also in the description. Well, I hope you enjoyed this design lesson. If you did, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button to be notified of more design lesson videos like this in future. Now this is part of a bigger series on poster design and part of my poster design ebook. If you want to take a closer look at the examples I have demonstrated in this video and learn more about poster design with tutorials on how to make a poster design and undertake a poster design challenge, you can invest in the poster design ebook. Link is in the description. So this video was created for all my members of the GDS Design School community. If you'd like to join the GDS Design School community, where we chat about design, give each other feedback, and where I set design challenges, you're all welcome to join for free. Again, link is in the description, and I look forward to seeing you there. So until my next design lesson, unleash your creativity, and I'll see you next time.